This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Today on the podcast, I want to talk about the fact that Reddit has just entered into a deal with an AI company, an undisclosed AI company I'll mention, that allows them to essentially sell user-generated content from Reddit for $60 million a year in this new agreement. This is a move that essentially comes as Reddit is trying to monetize. They have an IPO coming up. So today on the podcast, I want to break down everything that we know about this deal, what some of the broader implications are in the market, and why I think this is really important for their upcoming IPO. Before we jump into all of that, I wanted to say there are only 5 days left in the crowdfunding campaign on Republic for my very own startup AI Box, which is a no-code AI app builder and marketplace. I'm sure you've heard me talk about AI Box before, if you've listened to the podcast, but if not, I would love it if you could join us on the journey. You're welcome to check out the project. I'll leave the link in the show notes to republic.com/AI-box. You can look at what we're building. There are only 5 days left to invest in our crowdfunding campaign, at which point it will close. So I'll leave a link in the show notes, but let's get into the podcast. So Reddit has entered this huge deal where essentially they are selling access and their data set for AI models to train on for $60 million a year. So this move right now comes as Reddit really is trying to maximize their value ahead of their planned IPO. They're trying to show, look, we have more than just the ad revenue on our platform. We have these other monetization methods. So I think while the practice of training AI models on web scrape data without permission is it's getting a lot more controversial. OpenAI is getting a lot of flack for it. A lot of companies are getting a lot of flack for it. So I think because of that, Reddit shut down their API. They shut down access for other companies to essentially access their data. That was a whole controversial issue this year. But I think people are starting to understand the value of that data and why they might do that. And I think that all of it, really just stems from the big AI question. So this new deal where they're essentially selling all of Reddit's data for $60 million a year has sparked a bunch of controversy due to the use of user-generated content, right? Like technically their users created this and now they're selling it and users are saying, hey, that's our content. We should get, paid for it, et cetera, et cetera. So Reddit's terms and conditions right now make it actually legal to do this, but it has raised a bunch of privacy and consent issues with their users. The company right now, they have made this kind of decision to charge for access to their API, which affected third-party apps. There was a whole bunch of protests earlier last year because of this, right? So essentially, a bunch of really popular subreddits went dark, or they turned their subreddits private so no one could use them, and there was kind of this big protest on the platform. But of course, they all came back eventually because that's the way that this platform functions. But I think that this whole development really reflects a broader trend of tech companies trying to monetize their platforms right now with these sort of kind of AI training deals. And I think there are a lot of ethical and privacy considerations to go into this, but I do think this one in particular is very interesting. So I think right now the potential sale of their data has a lot of people talking, and I think that it really reflects kind of what other companies have been doing. I mean, we even look at companies like Twitter who have gone and shut off the API access to Twitter because OpenAI was scraping it before Elon bought it. And, then they went and trained their own AI model, Grok, which is exclusive, has that exclusive access to the Twitter data set. So I think there's obviously a ton of value in these. And one other thing I wanted to mention is all of this is really important for Reddit as they're getting ready for their IPO. This is something that they were going to do a little bit earlier, I believe last year, but with all of the craziness and valuations, or actually they may have even been planning this for a couple years ago, but with all of the kind of the IPOs that were put on ice, it looks like the IPO market is heating up and Reddit will be kind of getting into this. Now, I will say they are doing something very interesting right now, which is that they're planning to sell a number of their shares to some of their most active users on their platform before their initial public offering for the big IPO. So usually this is something I think they're doing, like according to the Wall Street Journal, they're looking at doing up to 75,000 shares, or 75,000 of Reddit's top users could actually get a chance to buy some of the Reddit stock before it starts trading. This is, normally you're going to see this with large investment banks or, institutional investors. That's kind of what these kind of pre-sale allocations would get allocated for, but it looks like they're saving an allocation for their top users. Now, on the one hand, you could be like, okay, this makes sense, right? They're just trying to, give back to their users. It's kind of altruistic and nice and whatever. I think it's maybe an even better business decision, right? Because if you think about Reddit, it is famous for a lot of things, but one thing in particular is they had the whole meme stock craze of 2021. And they had the Wall Street Bets subreddit that really drove, things like GameStop and I think Bed Bath & Beyond and Nokia. Like there's a number of these kind of meme stocks that they essentially just drove the price up because they had these kind of retail investors talking all about it, right? And so I believe that Reddit is kind of focusing on this ahead of their IPO, getting a lot of these meme stock traders, a lot of these retail investors to purchase shares of Reddit, and they get, a discount. They get in early, and the idea is that they will actually be driving up the price and be bringing in more buyers. So right now, Reddit has more than 70 million daily active users, and I think that giving their top 75,000 users, most active users, this kind of like pre-sale allocation. This is a great way for them to essentially drive up the price on launch day on the big IPO, and then I think beyond. If this really turns into a cult classic, a meme stock classic, it really could see a ton of trading volume just based off of that. So I think right now Reddit is almost 20 years old. It was last valued at $10 billion, but I think it's likely to have a much lower valuation in their IPO. And that's because just the markets have definitely shifted a lot as interest rates have gone up, and you know the drill on the valuations of companies, I'm sure. So in any case, I think Reddit right now is expecting that it's going to increase their ad revenue more than 20% to a little over $80 million last year. And I think that they're really just trying to focus on growing their revenues. They're, I think, trying to hit that $1 billion revenue mark. So they're at $800 million from their ads. If they could do $60 million from this AI deal and ink a number of these AI deals, I think they'll be in a really good position for their IPO. So I think more than ever, this kind of AI data play is really important for Reddit. It's going to be interesting to see if they start signing more of these ahead of a potential IPO. And I'll definitely keep you updated as that happens and as we learn more about that.